I'm going to call this work inspired by love, not ego. And I'm definitely a work in progress in regard to that, but Joe helps me with that every day. And you know how he says, talk about the current things in your life. And so I'm going to give you three examples of how his work has influenced my work. Um, One from last month, one from last week, and one from this week. So, and can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay, good. So last month, I was in the Northeast speaking at a couple of universities to students and faculty and alumni and organizations of women. And I was talking about emotional fitness. And, they typically will think she's going to say, here's the 3 ways to you can get emotionally fit, but I never do that. In fact, the way I start is I talk about right brain, left brain. And you may recall, having been with Joe for many years, that he did a lot of teaching on right brain, left brain. And I show this, which, can you see it? It kind of looks like it's supposed to be a brain, but it kind of looks like a blob with tomato sauce. But somehow this works. People understand what this is. And, I explained that
Can
the
you lift
left
it a
brain.
bit higher? Just lift it a bit higher.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Can you see it
Yeah.
now? Okay, great. All right. Um, So anyway, I explained how left brain is very transactional and right brain is transformative, and how left brain is, our logic and our processing and our intellect and all these things that are really important, our to-do lists, but that it's also the source of me and ego energy, and how right brain is where compassion and connection and cultures, emotionally healthy cultures are created. And that's the we, so the me and the we. So when I was in Rhode Island and I gave that talk, I got a note on LinkedIn from a young woman, and I wanted to read it to you. I was in awe of your presentation at the Women's Summit, talking about left brain versus right brain and mindfulness, because I always talk about that too. And mindfulness is so important. I had a breakout session after your speech, and I reiterated a lot of your talking points. I had a stroke my senior year of college on the left side of my brain, and I started singing before I could talk again. I deeply related to the part of your speech where you discussed hitting a reset button on your career. In my own life, I had a forced reset button. I had a job lined up for after graduation at Price Waterhouse in the tax department. Post-stroke, I have aphasia, and the reading of numbers is very difficult. I'm now on my journey to become a public speaker for brain injury awareness and blood clotting awareness. So I don't think Joe realizes how much his teaching impacts, all of us, and it trickles down to other people that are in our lives. I was really touched by that. And yes, I also talk about mindfulness and meditation all the time as ways to light up your right brain. And again, these people think half the time I'm crazy because, they're expecting some hardcore presentation, but I usually do get good feedback after. So that was last month. Then last week, I was traveling and I spoke at the Jamie Daniels Foundation, which is a foundation for teens and young adults who are in recovery from substance misuse. And it was founded because Lisa and Ken Daniels lost their son to a fentanyl overdose. And So we all gathered. There were moms, dads, healthcare professionals, students, fair number of students. And if you'll bear with me, because I want to lead into the Joe teaching that I referred to when I spoke. But what I talked about was my own experience with substance misuse and how I believe that it's a disease of disconnectedness, and it's not rational, but it's real. That I was happily married, raising a fun little boy, great job, but felt completely alone, not rational, but real. And that I believe also that all of us, whether you have a substance use disorder or not, all of us, that belonging is our deepest longing. And we find it in communities like here. And we find it, if you're in recovery, you find it in your recovery communities, and you listen to people's stories, and you think, gosh, my story's messed up, but so is yours. I am you and you are me. And I'm in long-term recovery, but I still go to many meetings a week, and I sit there and I listen and I think to myself, what would the world look like if everyone believed I am you and you are me? I don't think we'd have Gaza or Ukraine or Haiti. And then from there, I showed a heart. If Jill, I don't know if you can share the screen and show Joe's heart, not Joe's heart, but the graphic that he often uses for a heart. Yeah, so I even crib Joe's graphics when I speak. And I show this heart and I say that we are all in recovery from something. Maybe a fight we had the night before with a spouse or a child. It may be a past trauma that was never healed. We are all blessed and wounded and just fully human. And okay, Jill, those words, actually, fully human, Joe named this book that I wrote. He didn't realize he named it, but I was sitting, well, I'll just read this one section real quick. We were sitting in the Zendo one morning, and I told him I was beginning to write a book about trust and leadership. I asked him what leadership meant to him. Great leaders are fully human, Susan. And from there, he explained what he meant. And I actually used those two words to name my book. And what's interesting about that is the last chapter of my book, and I talked to Joe about this. I actually told my recovery story, just one chapter out of 10. And I had a number of speaking engagements lined up with my book. And when two of the organizers read that last chapter, they canceled the engagements. And who would want someone with a disorder speaking about leadership? So back to this idea of work inspired by love, not ego. I was pretty mortified by that, truthfully, and embarrassed. And my girlfriend, Angela, I told her about it, and I told her, I'm getting off LinkedIn, it's just ridiculous. And she got irate and she said, those fuckers need you more than anything. You need to stay on LinkedIn. And so I did. Every year when I get my coin, my chip for 1 year, I give a bunch of likes. It's just weird. Anyway, but because of that experience and working with Joe, I'm now a recovery advocate and activist for teens and young adults. I'm very open about it. So Work inspired by love, not ego. And the last thing I'll say, the last example was just this week. I finished an introduction for a book I'd like to write about for women, a wisdom book about midlife. And I'm just going to read. And if you tuned in before we started, there you saw Mona Lisa and the beautiful collection of music that Jill put together. And thank you, Jill, for that. So again, back to work influenced by Joe. This is what I've written. St. Augustine wrote that people wonder at the height of mountains, the waves of the sea, the motion of the stars, yet pass by themselves without wondering. I believe, and this might be the heart of the book, that we women pass by ourselves without wondering. We won't take the time to know how we're made, and from there, how we belong to the world, beyond bringing home a paycheck or being on time to pick up our kids or grandkids from school. I found that understanding myself and from there having my own needs met was not problematic. It was heroic. My midlife saving grace. And then I have a subhead, Mona Lisa as metaphor. I attended a retreat at Loose Leaf Hollow, a retreat center created by my spiritual director, Joe Zarantinello. He has many images on the walls there. Jesus, Buddha, my two great teachers, he would tell you, his grandmother, who was another great teacher for him, and Mona Lisa. Why Mona Lisa? I asked him. It was Saturday morning and the sun was shining through the windows of the Zendo. The group had just finished 20 minutes of meditation. Why Mona Lisa? He repeated the question, somewhat incredulous, but his eyes glittering with secret amusement. Why do tourists from all over the globe travel to Paris, even now, with protests in the streets to see her? Why Mona Lisa? Why are people standing in line for hours at the Louvre to see this unfinished portrait by Leonardo da Vinci? A picture that is not much bigger than a pillow? He obviously had some energy around this question. Joe continued, the only portraits of women painted during that time were queens. Yet there she is, not tied to a role, at home in the world, home sweet home with herself. I needed my midlife years to become like Mona Lisa, comfortable with myself and at home in the world. Before then, it seemed my worth depended largely on my earning power or affirmations from others. I passed by myself without understanding her, how she's made, what gives her joy. I see this so often in other women too, my friends and those I mentor. We seek validation from others because we don't know who's buried beneath the roles. Or we think if we really knew her, we might reject her. She's not good enough. She's not accomplished enough. Even worse, she is unlovable. This isn't original, but it bears repeating. If we treated others like we treated ourselves, we'd have no friends. As a woman, the primary lesson I needed to learn was that I couldn't borrow my self-worth from external things or from other people. I needed to be happy with all of me, with my brain, however disordered, body and heart, with my strengths, passions, and limits. And those limits made me human, not an embarrassment. Once I understood this, and midlife provided me with the tools and time to get there, I could be of use in the world. I could endeavor to shine some light in its dark corners. I hope this book sparks your own inner light so you might see, as I have, how unlimited you are. So Joe has called me a translator for his work, and it is the greatest honor in the world to be a translator of his work with the work that I do today. And by the way, I'm now his agent because he's going to be doing a podcast. Where is that? That I've connected him with some friends, And it's with St. John's Episcopal Cathedral here in Knoxville. I'll keep you posted on that. But anyway, I wanted to share that, and that's really it. I thought this would go a lot longer than it has, so we have a lot of time to meditate and to talk afterwards. So what we're going to do now is what we always do, which is move into meditation time, and get comfortable in your whatever position you use for meditation. And I will ring the bell, and then 15 minutes later, I will ring it again, and you can write. And then after that, we'll gather to sit and talk, or sit in silence. So here we go.